Hey humans. Hey Tim Shieff. It's Manny here. Maybe I'm a little bit optimistic in assuming that you're actually watching this, but maybe some of you guys out there know Tim and could share this video with him. It would be really cool if you would get to see it, and I would be really happy to know that. Tim, if you're watching this, please leave a comment down below and let me know if you actually watched it. I would be really glad to know that. First of all, I need to give my audience a little bit of context to this whole thing here. This is kind of a premiere on this channel. I never did a response or reacting to something else video before on this channel. As you know, I'm doing basically my own thing here in this little small rock climbing niche here on YouTube. For those of you who are not familiar with my real talk format, it's basically a video format where I just, talk my heart off, and I always make some notes here to try to stay on track, not ramble too much, because I have a tendency to ramble. So that's what I have here in this little booklet here. Also, I think it's quite an awesome mood here at the moment. We've got autumn here in Austria, and as you can see, it's a really mystical, misty morning here. So I figured, what a nice opportunity for a little, real talk, a little bit of a chat here in the mist. What am I reacting to? Maybe you remember that in one of my recent real talks called Fasting for Beginners, I mentioned someone who just came off a 35-day water fast. One of his goals with this crazy long fast was to heal a couple of issues with his body. As I understood it, in particular, it was flexibility related. He wanted to get rid of a certain stiffness that he had accumulated in his body over the time of doing his sport. His sport is freerunning and parkour, and also running in general. He's quite a passionate runner as far as I can see it. He also had some sort of gut issues that he wanted to tackle with this fast. Apparently some bloating, discomfort, and the pretty much standard stuff. And he also had quite a case of athlete's foot that he wanted to tackle. Now, his gut issues and the athlete's foot, he assumed it could be related. It could have something to do with candida. Apparently he somewhere picked up that you can fast against candida but it's, of course, like all these gut dysbiosis things, a very resilient organism, and you have to fast quite a long time to get rid of it. I think he mentioned a number here, 21 days or something. So that's quite advanced stuff here. Anyway, he started at some point. Who is this guy? He is called Tim Shieff. His name is Tim Shieff. And I'm sure the vegans and ex-vegans still watching my channel have already heard of him. He was always a great inspiration, I have to say, for me personally as well, because he was actually an athlete. He was an athlete that promoted veganism. And unlike all the other vegans on YouTube whose sole asset is basically their militancy when it comes to their diet, he actually had some purpose, okay? He had some purpose. In my opinion, if you put diet and all your health practices and stuff like that at the center of your life, then you're doing already something wrong, because actually all these things should just serve as a purpose for something greater. In his case, this greater was his athleticism. Now, that's just something that I can relate very well to, because my reasons for going vegan were also health related, and I wanted to maximize my performance when it comes to rock climbing. Some of you might know I'm a rock climber. That's my thing here. This was my great thing, and my health and my diet should serve as a foundation, to be able to perform as well as possible. So I could very well relate here with him. You might have, if you don't know what he's able to do, I mean, back then he was one of the best, if not the best guy when it comes to parkour and free running and stuff. and you can see his performance on his older videos. His channel is called Timothy, the old channel at least. His old channel is called Timothy, and when you go there and you check out his oldest videos, I think some of them are 6 or even 7 years ago recorded, where you can see what he's been doing, and it was just great. He was having a lot of fun doing that. I can see it. It was just amazing to watch. Really, a lot of jumping power, a lot of flexibility, flexibility. That was always one of his problems, as far as I can remember, as far as I know what he's been telling through his videos. But his speed and his agility and stuff like that, it was really good, really on point there. A lot of vitality in this guy. Now, he's also at the same time a very smart and compassionate guy, and so it would only be a question of time until he would stumble upon veganism, which he got into, and he was also one of my inspirations, to be honest, to be a vegan athlete, because I was watching him and I thought, okay, if this guy can be an athlete and can be vegan, then I can be vegan as well. And obviously it's doing even something good for him. It helps him in his performance, and at the same time it reduces the impact on the environment, and it's also very ethical and all that kind of stuff. And so he got into veganism. Now, when it comes to all this health journey and health and purpose of health, actually, I want to drop a little anecdote here. Some of you guys know that I have a past in Shaolin Kung Fu, and when I was training back then in Vienna in this Shaolin temple, the master there who taught us, he was actually an incredible man. He was this Chinese guy who came actually from China, from the original Shaolin temple, and he did the full package. He had the full package, I should say. He got there when he was 4 or something, and trained there for 20 years, 7 hours a day, 7 days a week and stuff like that. A crazy schedule. He was the fastest man that I ever met in my life. He was also I don't know if there was anyone faster really on YouTube or anything, where you get to see a lot of people from different places in the world on YouTube, obviously. But he was definitely the fastest man, and a man who brought his thing that he took, which was Shaolin Kung Fu, to the extreme, the most that I ever met before. Okay, so he was really someone who I looked up to, and at some point it was the time as well where I got into vegetarianism and veganism and all this kind of stuff. So I thought, okay, this guy he's gotta have some sort of special nutrition going on, okay, to be able to endure all this training, be able to endure this speed and this performance. And he wouldn't look very thin or something. It's not like they look like these emaciating looking rock climbers who are very thin, and super lean and very low body fat percentage. If you're looking at a typical Shaolin monk in their 20s, in their 30s, they look quite, they look healthy, they look a little bit puffy even sometimes. They have a good layer of fat on them. And so I thought, okay, you know what, I want to ask him what his nutrition looks like. And I expected, getting into a vital, lively discussion about nutrition and about vegetarianism, because these guys, they practice Buddhism as well, and of course it's this Eastern stuff, and they probably vegetarian, maybe even vegan, who knows. And I went up to him and asked him, hey man, do you have any special tips and tricks when it comes to diet and stuff? Do you leave anything out, is there something some regimen that you follow? And he said one word, and that was everything. I said, what do you mean everything? You just eat everything? And he said, yeah, just everything. And so I was kind of struck and a little bit disappointed by this answer, because I expected again to get into this discussion with him, and he just said everything. So I couldn't really discuss anything about that, because at this time I was thinking about veganism and stuff like that. So for him it was quite clear that nutrition, it was maybe 10% of his life, nutrition was not at the center of his life. Shaolin Kung Fu was at the center of his life, and nutrition just worked for him automatically without him having to think about it so much. This is a very important lesson here. Health is natural, and health is also very simple at the same time. If you have to go to all these extremes and really have to dial it in, and you have to get your fats, and then you have to take your supplements for this and that, and you have to, you know, eat only certain times of the day, and then you don't have to eat, and it follows a specific pattern and stuff like that. No, man, it's not that complicated. If you're eating the right things, health is actually really simple, and it doesn't need to occupy the center of your life. You actually can have something else at the center of your life, you know, the greater purpose of your health actually. And health is only your foundation. So much about that. Anyway, back to Timothy. So he's vegan. He's vegan for some time, and the longer he stays vegan, the more he's getting into this kind of spirituality thing, you know. He's getting into yoga, he's getting into meditating, sun gazing, and all this kind of stuff, you know. More and more towards the health thing, less and less about athleticism anymore. So this is already in my opinion, a concerning development if a person depicts that, because it's moving away from the actual purpose of health, which is something greater, okay? It's more focusing towards health and health and health, and if a person goes down that road, then you already know that at the core of this person there's something not right, you know. Yes, he feels that his health is off all the time to some degree, and that's why he has to focus on it more and more and more, and it goes down this spiral, you know. Then you listen even closer, and then you notice something else that's a little bit wrong, and something else that's a little bit wrong, and slowly you're spiraling here out of control. Now with his journey, it goes down this road of you know, yoga and meditating and spirituality and stuff like that, very, you know, veganism related topics. And finally he discovers fasting, and as I said in my fasting for beginners video, fasting very often is a cure for veganism finally, okay, for a lot of people. Fasting is the last destination inside of the vegan realm, and after that most of them break through, or at least if they are very smart and listen to the body very carefully, they break through it. And I know that Tim is very smart, and he has a very fine-tuned sense for how his body feels and stuff like that. He describes this very vigorously in his videos, so I know that. And when he did this 35-day water fast, I knew, okay, probably it's not gonna take a long time until he actually jumps off the vegan bandwagon. But anyway, I gotta give him credit, because when he does something, he does it properly. Okay, so these are the persons that you can learn from on YouTube. He says, okay, fasting might help me, so I go on this 7-day water fast. He starts fasting for 7 days. On his 7th day, he still felt great. He wasn't quite satisfied with his results, you know, that he got from the fast still. So I thought, okay, I still feel great. Why not go even longer? So he went longer. He went for, I think, 2 weeks. After that, he decided, okay, I can still going longer. He went for 21 days. And then was this challenge of doing a whole moon cycle, and he wanted to do a whole moon cycle. Could he still go longer? Apparently he could, and he decides to go even longer than that. Now, finally he came to this point at 35 days where he broke his fast. So 35 days, I mean, that's 5 weeks. 5 weeks without food. Only distilled water. So if fasting could do anything for him, he should have definitely felt some of these this progress after 35 days on water, okay? Now, from his post-fast videos, which you can watch as well, I watched them on his channel called I Feel Truth, which is sort of his newer channel, which is focused on health and, you know, diet and all this kind of stuff. He explained the benefits that he got. First of all, his flexibility improved. Now, that's not a big surprise, Tim. Honestly, when I fasted for 3 days dry, my flexibility improved tremendously. Flexibility improves when you're fasting, and this is only logic. First of all, your inflammation goes down, as you know, when you fast. And inflammation in your muscles causes stiffness of these muscles. We all know this. When we get a hard workout in, the next day we have a muscle ache, which is in part due to the little ruptures in the muscle, in part due to the lactate that accumulated in this muscle, both of which causes inflammation, which, as you know, is nothing else than a signal from the body that encourages it to heal itself, because then the immune cells go in there, they clear everything up, clear everything out, new muscle fibers can grow, they can attach, and you're a little bit stronger than before. Inflammation goes down again. So inflammation, this is just a natural thing of healing your body, essentially. Now if you fast, your inflammation goes down like crazy. So it's only logical that your muscles are going to be smoother. If you have any achy points in your body, I've mentioned this before as well. I had a little bit of a golfer elbow going on from the climbing, from the hard training. When I would fast, this would disappear. Okay, and when I start eating again, it would come back. So it doesn't really heal that stuff, but it reduces inflammation, and that's how you gain flexibility. That's one reason. Another reason is that you're actually using up all your glycogen stores, and glycogen makes your muscle bigger, and it also makes it a little bit stiffer, you know. When your muscles get thinner because you're using up all that glycogen, you not only have a smoother muscle to work with, but also the muscles are smaller, which means when my bicep is smaller, I have more range of motion moving my hand towards my head, if that makes sense, okay? Because my bicep is not hindering my forearm to go closer to my head. So all your joints basically have more range of motion when you're fasted, because you have less glycogen in your muscles, simple as that, and they are a little bit smaller. So yes, flexibility improves when you're fasting, but this is only temporary. As soon as you're eating again, your flexibility will get worse a little bit again, okay? It's only natural. That has nothing to do with permanent gains here. As far as I can tell from his videos, his gut issues came back. And this is also why I finally came to the conclusion myself that fasting for gut dysbiosis is not the way to go. If you can't heal your gut dysbiosis with a 35-day water fast, there is not a good chance that you can do it with fasting in any way, okay? What you can heal when it comes to the gut with fasting, and I've talked about this in fasting for beginners as well, the physical damage that has been done to your gut from whatever reason, okay? If you're having an ulcer, for example, or if you're having hemorrhoids, or if you're having a leaky gut and all these kind of issues which are related to physical ruptures, physical injuries to your gut lining, then of course fasting can help you with that, simply because it removes the stress of food. Okay, the stress of food removed on your gut lining will allow it to heal. Actually, it will give it a chance finally to heal. That's why people have tremendous results when it comes to ulcers and hemorrhoids when it comes to fasting. Okay, fasting helps with all these issues. He didn't comment on his athlete's foot, which would be quite interesting in my opinion. If it would both were candida related, then we should see improvements on both. Obviously, the candida doesn't go away. One thing you have to know about candida as well is that candida is present even in a healthy body, okay? Just to a very much smaller extent, a very much smaller population size. If you're eating the wrong things for a very long time, this can lead to a candida overgrowth. And also if your gut isn't secreting enough stomach acid. This is all these things that we are going to get into this video, actually, in this video, because these are actually quite important. But anyway, I don't want to start rambling now already. Some of his videos in particular stood out to me, and one of this was called Eating More Fat on a Raw Vegan Diet, where he describes how he got these cravings for cashews, and he ate these cashews, and it was against his high carb fruitarian orientation that he had all the time, you know. So he had to actually break it and eat all these cashews, and he felt better after that. Now, as you might or not know, cashews are not raw, okay, by the way, so you actually broke your raw vegan thing here already. But that's the first step that is always displayed with these vegans. They go towards a more high-fat diet. because what you have to know is, if you have got dysbiosis, all these bad organisms, bad only because they exist in an off relationship quantity wise to each other, because actually all these bad organisms are actually good for you if they have the right quantity, okay? But anyway, that's another subject. They drive on carbohydrates, okay? They love fermenting carbohydrates. That's what they do. It's an anaerobic environment down there in your gut. It's very warm, it's moist and stuff, you know. If undigested carbohydrates get down there and get to these organisms, they love it and they're gonna ferment them, okay? They're gonna ferment them, they create a lot of gas, they create alcohols, they create toxic substances, and this is what gets you symptoms actually. Now, if you're reducing your carbohydrates, or let's say you go on a completely high-fat diet anyway, then you will see an improvement in your symptoms. And obviously, if you're fasting, you will see the greatest improvement, because you're removing all foods. You're not giving them any chance to do their bad fermentation stuff. However, this is only going to cause them to shrink in size. They're going to create biofilms. They're going to wait there until the next food comes. That's my theory at least. And then they bloom up again, okay, and create symptoms again. So I already said this in Fasting for Beginners. How your gut microbiome is constituted mainly depends on what you eat when you eat, rather than how you fast when you fast. It's much more important what you eat, actually. Another video he did was called "The Raw Vegan Diet is Not Serving Me." This was when I knew, okay, now he's onto something. Now he has realized that all this fruit, all this sugar, all this carbohydrates, water and stuff like that is not helping him to get better, you know. I actually left a comment on this video which got quite a couple of upvotes, stating what could be what could be the reason for his problems. I couldn't find it again, so maybe he deleted it, who knows. But anyway, here I knew, okay, he's onto something now. It's not gonna take much longer anymore until he is gonna drop off the vegan wagon. And surprise, surprise, 1 week ago from today, he came out with a video called "Sharing a Tough Truth," where he admitted that he tried some raw eggs and wild-caught salmon, and that it made him feel better. This is an important point. It made him feel better unexpectedly, okay? Because he was expecting, as all these other vegans, that you're gonna die when you eat one raw egg or one piece of salmon or stuff like that, you know. Obviously that doesn't happen, and quite the contrary is the case actually. So maybe it's already obvious, but why do I have to react to this? I can very much relate to his situation. I'm an athlete as well. I'm looking into different ways to increase my health, and because I want to increase my performance in my athleticism. So here I'm in a different position than all these other vegans whose sole purpose is veganism itself, you know, and who it's at the center of their life, and otherwise they're sitting on the couch and they look like skinny fat little sticks in the landscape, you know. So it's different with me, because I actually also have a higher purpose, and I know this is the case for him as well, so I can relate here. Another thing is that I'm also an ex-vegan, so I've been going through this kind of, although I was vegan for a much shorter period than he was, at this point I have to say luckily, because who knows what kind of issues I would have developed if I would stay on that for much longer. I was vegan for about 2 years. I think he is vegan for about 6 years or something even. So that's quite some time there. Quite some time without animal products. But anyway, I was vegan as well, so I can relate to his situation here as well. Additionally, I can relate to his situation because I had a vegan channel as well. My channel was called Vegan Rock Climbing back in the days. So quite a lot of vegans were following me, and quite a lot of vegans were disappointed when I pointed out that I'm not vegan anymore in this recent video of mine. We have to talk about diet again. So I can relate to his situation here a little bit as well. For him, it's even a much bigger thing, because he has this vegan company even, okay, which is now kind of forcing him to stay focused on on this path, you know, although I already know that he already knows deep in his heart that it's not serving him anymore, and that he wants actually to try something new. This is also another reason why I want to respond here to him. And thirdly, this is an important point, I have experience with fasting. Now, although I did not fast when I was a vegan, I didn't even think about fasting when I was a vegan because I was still a food addict. I smashed in carbohydrates 24/7, and I wouldn't even get the idea to fast. Now fasting is a lot easier because I'm actually eating very nutrient-dense foods, which allow me to fast much longer, much easier. And anyway, that's another subject. For me, fasting was not the remedy for veganism, so to say, but as I have mentioned before in my Fasting for Beginners video, for a lot of vegans, fasting is the final destination in veganism, and from there on they hop off the vegan wagon, because fasting is actually reintroducing contrast into one's eating habits. Usually when vegans start to fast, they realize that they have been fasting all the time, because veganism is essentially a fasting diet. That's what it was invented for by monks in the Far East, you know, who sat in their monasteries all the time and wanted to reach a higher spirituality. Okay, veganism is of course helping you with that, because it reduces your what can I say, meaty cravings in the reality. It's gonna reduce your libido. It's gonna reduce your emotional intensity and stuff like that. It's gonna flatten out your life a little bit. I don't know how I should call it, but anyone who is vegan for a very long time will very much know what I'm talking about here. It's gonna flatten it out, and it's gonna, you're not feeling very happy all the time, but you're not feeling very down all the time either, you know. It's kind of, the contrast is removed. And not only is this true for your psyche, but it's also true for your digestion. And this is something that's very important here, because Tim, why do you think that all vegans, or almost all vegans, develop these gut issues over time? It's quite fascinating how this works. When I started researching much more into that, I found out that it probably has something to do with stomach acid. The reason why we have stomach acid is actually because we are meat eaters, or let's say animal product eaters, scavengers even at some point, and stomach acid is just so biologically important for us because it's necessary to break down these proteins, these meaty proteins. And not only that, but it's also very important for sanitizing our gut. A high stomach acid is going to prevent an overgrowth of bacteria in your stomach, and also in the following tubes of the small intestines. Now, you've been talking a lot about another person on YouTube named Goji Man is talking a lot about SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Now, why do you think all these vegans have developed this stuff over time? Stomach acid is something that takes a lot of energy to produce by your body, and if you don't eat the things that actually require stomach acid to digest, your body will decide over time to reduce its stomach acid production. Now, one thing that's very important, and this is really interesting, your stomach actually has taste receptors, okay? Not only in your mouth do you have taste receptors, which are going into your consciousness, but also your stomach has taste receptors that you just don't get there anymore, okay? You might be getting a certain kind of satisfaction out of your stomach if you're eating the right foods, which does not happen when you eat a lot of vegan foods, by the way. At least for me, it did not happen as much. But you have stomach acids in particular for umami in your stomach, so your stomach can sense whether you've eaten meat or you've eaten something else, which is very logical, because only meat requires stomach acid, and your stomach doesn't want to produce stomach acid for something that doesn't require it, but because it's costing a lot of energy to actually produce stomach acid. So this is kind of a use it or lose it mechanism here in nature, okay? What happens when you go vegan, and especially when you go fruitarian for a very long time, is that you're eating all this fruit. Now fruit is the food probably that needs the least stomach acid to digest, okay? It's almost consisting only of carbohydrates and water. So what happens is you're getting your saliva out because it wants to break down the carbohydrates in your mouth. Then it gets into your stomach, where it's basically not digested at all, and then it's getting further to your pancreas, and your pancreas is creating juices there as well to break down the carbohydrates even further. Now the problem with this is, if you're eating this all the time, then you're never going to secrete any stomach acid, and you're gonna lose this ability over time. And once you're eating things that actually would require stomach acid again, for example all these grains and stuff like that, you know, things that are really still high in carbohydrates but also consist of certain proteins and, you know, structural proteins that help you break down the food actually, which would require stomach acid, you don't have it anymore, which leads to undigested particles that get into your small intestine, bacteria getting down there, and they start to ferment this stuff, and then you've got a SIBO situation going on over time. So in my opinion, it's very obvious that a loss of stomach acid, and these people can test their stomach acid, those who have done that found out that they all have low stomach acid. Okay, it's low stomach acid really that's at the core of this problem. Why does Goji Man not tell you about that? This is something else that is really striking to me. He's talking so much about antibiotics and, you know, shitty eating habits that cause SIBO. I am pretty sure that all of you vegans out there, you have a friend who's eating crap all the time and still has a perfectly fine working digestion. He's getting maybe his 2 infections per year. For one of it he's getting antibiotics, and he still has good digestion, or at least not as compromised at your own digestion, okay? So how can this be? If this person is eating crap all the time and eating antibiotics, you're on this health journey yourself, never eating crap anymore, presumably always eating healthy food, never eating antibiotics, and still you've got this SIBO situation going on. It's simply because it has to do with your stomach acid. If you're not eating these stomach acid requiring foods anymore, your body is going to shut down stomach acid production, and then you're running into problems. Now you have to understand that all your digestion works on a basis of contrast as well. You're producing saliva in your mouth, alkaline environment, breaking down carbohydrates. It's going down into your stomach. We switch from alkaline to acidic, extremely acidic, okay? Breaking down proteins, all these protein degrading enzymes are going to be secreted, which require a low pH to even work, okay? So all your protein downgrading enzymes are not going to work in a non-acidic stomach. So anyway, acidity in your stomach. Once it's broken down there, these juices are gonna get through this little muscle there into your small intestine, where it hits your pancreas. This sour thing hits your pancreas. Sour stimulus for your pancreas means that it's going to secrete a lot of juices that are gonna break down the carbohydrates further, okay? Turning this whole thing again a little bit alkaline. Also your gallbladder jumps on the train because it senses this sour juice and it's excreting bile, it's called bile fluids, okay, to digest your fats. So all the subsequent organs depend on this acidity stimulus from your stomach, and once that's not there anymore, they are going to shut down as well. And all that's happening is basically the food is going through you undigested until it hits your small intestines, where a heap load of bacteria is waiting for it and whatnot, all kinds of other stuff, parasites and what else, there in a huge quantity, because your stomach is lacking stomach acid. Again, I want to stress the fact that probably all these organisms are there anyway, but mostly in your large intestine, and to a much smaller degree than when you have this SIBO situation where they travel up into your small intestines, because all these undigested particles go down there, okay? So this is essentially SIBO in a nutshell, and I think that 95% of people who develop SIBO actually have a stomach acid problem at the cause of their symptoms. Goji Man is of course not telling you about that. He just wants you to buy his tests and you know, stay vegan, yeah, regardless if it's good for your health or not. But anyway, so we went into that. Once you're in SIBO, once you have a SIBO going on, you have all sorts of malabsorption issues, and it's gonna spiral your health down even further when it comes to the systemic condition of your body. You know, your athletic performance is gonna go down. We don't have to get into that. That's actually quite logical. Now the question is, what is the best way out of this situation? If fasting is only going to reduce this gut microbiome in size but not in quality, then fasting is not really a way out there. In my opinion, the way out there is to reintroduce those foods which will help to kickstart back your stomach acid again. Okay, you can also try supplementing stomach acid. Now you're coming up with all these supplements again, vitamin D and DHA and whatnot. Man, nutrition is not that complex. Just eat the right foods, okay? Your instinct is already telling you the truth. You feel truth already. Quite a fitting channel name there. So reintroduce these foods that cause your stomach acid to come back. Now, one thing you should also know is that your health, it didn't switch from one day to another, that you're having these gut issues. It's rather a slow decline, and once you reintroduce these foods, you will, as you have said yourself, feel better quite instantly, but it's still going to take some time until your stomach acid climbs again and comes back in full force. And until then, I would honestly stay away from all these carbohydrates and stuff which are only going to ferment in your gut. Also, when we fast, this is something else that you should think of. Why do we feel so good when we fast, when we have developed all these gut issues? Because gut issues is, again, a huge reason why people actually fast. When you fast, you start consuming yourself. Okay, you're not living from food coming from the outside anymore. You start consuming yourself, and this is actually a food source which is very close, ironically, to what we should actually be eating, which is a diet that includes at least also some animal products. Okay. That's just foods that we need to a certain degree, and once we fast, we basically switch to 100% animal products, namely our own body. Okay, we are consuming it. We're consuming those fat cells with all the fat-soluble vitamins that are stored in there, all the proteins that are stored in there, and we can survive pretty decently just on that. Okay, which is why a lot of people that have digestive issues feel a lot better when they fast, obviously, because they are removing the stress and just allow the body to consume itself. The problem is you can't fast forever, and I've talked about that before. We can't fast forever. So not only do we have to get the fasting right, but we also have to get right what we eat when we eat. And this, unfortunately, for all the ethics and stuff like that, it includes animal products. Now, when it comes to ethics and the environment and so on and so forth, from your videos, I know that you are quite frequently around in rural areas in Britain, where the cows are roaming free and the chickens are roaming free. Also, those eggs that you've tried, you said they are from basically free pasturing chickens. So is there really such a huge ethical problem with consuming these animal products? Honestly, I don't think so. I mean, if it's promoting to your health, then honestly it's much better to go for that and explore this kind of stuff than sticking desperately to a path which didn't serve you for a long time already. And yeah, there's so many ex-vegans out there. Have you ever thought about why that is the case? Yeah, but anyway, I'm starting to ramble here, I think. Veganism for the health-conscious person is not the final destination, and you have said this yourself repeatedly. The only thing you did was you went down this road of raw veganism because you thought, okay, veganism is not good enough, so I go raw veganism. I myself tried the raw vegan way as well, particularly when I was in Mexico, because the fruit was of really high quality there, and I could live pretty well actually on 1 week of just raw fruits, just avocados, and all these good mangoes and papayas and whatnot. It's awesome stuff, really. It's awesome stuff. But all this vegan stuff, again, it's not the final destination for the health-conscious athlete, especially because we as athletes, we use up our nutrients much quicker than the general sedentary population. So we need to, at some point, at least get some of these very nutrient-dense foods in again, okay? And these are animal products. So much about that. Supplements will not speed up your process, okay? You yourself know, Tim, that nature, this chaos, it is incredibly complex. There are so many substances out there. I just read a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, which was written in 1935 or something like that. And already back then they knew that just vitamin D exists in like 8 or 9 different states and something, in the body. It's getting affected by sunlight, and it's getting affected by what you eat, and then it has to be converted in the liver and whatnot. It's an extremely complex metabolism. Supplementing vitamin D1 out of these huge number of different states is only going to bring your body out of balance. That's my personal opinion about supplements nowadays, okay? I also don't consume vitamin B12 anymore, of course, because it's not necessary anymore. Another thing, when it comes to cholesterol, there are people out there who can't even synthesize cholesterol on their own because they have a genetic defect. These people can't go vegan anyway because they would die instantly or very quickly. Now, all these things, you will never hear from all these vegan doctors and all these vegan promoters and stuff like that, which is kind of interesting when you ask me, okay? Why do they not tell you about that? Again, veganism is not the final destination when it comes to the health-conscious athlete, at least. That's my opinion, and you are a health-conscious athlete as well. At least as far as I can tell from your videos. That's why I wanted to react to your situation. I can very much relate to that. If any of you guys know Tim, please maybe share this video with him. It's going to be quite a lot of a different opinion than what he's hearing from all the rest of his followers who are vegan, obviously. A lot of them are themselves vegan. And a lot of them are struggling, actually. I mean, if you're watching one of Goji Man's videos and you're scrolling through the comments, you're basically realizing that all of them have some sort of issue. And all of them ask Goji Man, hey Goji Man, what can I do against my bloating? What can I do against my constipation? What can I do against my, rashes and stuff like that? I mean, what the hell, man? At some point, you gotta get back to reality. Anyway, I don't want to ramble here for ever. This video is long enough already. Tim, you've always been a great inspiration for me. I want to tell you that on my journey. I'm a health-conscious athlete as well. I always did my best to keep up my health as much as possible, and that's why at some point I had to turn away from veganism and a lot of things improved in that time. Not only the reasons why I actually went vegan, I was feeling cold all the time simply, and that's why I wanted to change something, but also my skin, my focus, my ability to fast. That's amazing. Simply, I couldn't fast when I was vegan. I was basically a food addict. Now I can fast easily because I know I have access to these really nutrient dense foods when I actually eat. Makes a huge difference. Follow your instincts. Your instincts are already pointing you towards this direction, I know, and you have a lot of experience with raw eating. Maybe a little bit of a hint that I can give you here at the end of this video for as kind of a reward for watching it to the end. This is a piece of raw organic butter, something that I can still get here in Austria, fortunately. Okay, in other countries of this planet, raw animal products are already, and especially raw dairy, is already illegal. Okay, you can't even buy it there anymore. I don't know how the situation in Britain is, but I know you're having access to these rural areas where a lot of cows are roaming free and stuff. So I'm sure you can get this stuff as well. And stuff like this is going to speed up your healing a lot. Okay, so much I can tell you about that. Just a little hint into this direction. You have a lot of experience with raw foods, and the raw thing is definitely the right thing. It's only depending which raw things you're focusing on. Okay, raw plants, some of them are good, some of them are okay, but it's not gonna be possible to, base your health on that. Maybe try the raw animal products a little bit as well. So much for that. I hope it was interesting for the rest of you guys as well. And now I'm going to rest a bit because that was actually pretty exhausting to make this video. I already recorded it for the second time. Anyway, see you soon. Have a great one. Bye.